I grew up in an energy household. My father had an oil valve company. And I lived through an energy family, the ups and downs of it. And then in the late 80s, he lost his business. And we moved to Pueblo, Colorado. And so he moved from energy to food processing. And then I got into computers and economics in college. So I thought I was done with energy. But energy found me again when I was questioning why the price of gasoline changed so much. And I took a job at Chevron and stayed there for over a decade. So I was born into it, but then I had to find it again, would be my answer. What about yours, Ann?
Yeah, a little bit different story. Prior to working for Entergy, I was in consulting. I was in IT consulting, and I was traveling every single week on a plane, like we were talking about. And I just had my first daughter, and I wanted to settle down. And I actually was on a flight flying from Atlanta to New Orleans, and I happened to sat next to a gentleman who was flying in to interview at Entergy for a job. And I handed him my business card and said, well, I'm looking to settle down. I just had my first daughter and I'm tired of traveling. And he was getting a job maybe in the IT department. And I said, if you need somebody like me, give me a call. 30 days later, he called me. 30 days later for that, I was working for Entergy. So I don't know if I found Entergy or Entergy found me, but that was what prompted. And that was 29 and a half years ago.
What got you in? Your chief AI officer, what got you in to AI and what's your first AI experience?
Yeah, it really it came in via really our board. There was a lot of interest. This is back in 2023 in April. There was interest in exploring AI and how we might leverage AI at scale. This is obviously on the heels of ChatGPT coming out in November of 2022. And so CEO contacted me and was asking, what are we doing with AI? And at the time, I was in charge of an advanced data analytics group. And so that's kind of how the conversation started. We pulled together a task force, we pulled together a strategy, sold that to the executive team, got the thumbs up on it. And so we decided to take my existing team and reform it into an artificial intelligence group. So we're still a little over a year. March is when we formed the team last year. So we're diving in the deep end of the pool and getting started.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Um, Mine was a little different. I look at I figure like I have an evolution with AI. When I was at IBM and I had my own company, I was doing a lot with distributed systems. And so we'd build a lot of expert-based systems, which is very early, but I didn't really get into core machine learning until I was at Chevron. And of all things, it was in the Permian Basin, doing horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing. It was understanding when to trip a drill bit or how to get the optimal rate of penetration with RPMs. It ended up, machine learning was really valuable to drilling a well. And generative AI and past machine learning, I really didn't get into until I landed at Google. But in between, I had something really interesting happen to me. I was at Pacific Gas and Electric and the wildfires happened, and they wanted to do a remote inspection program. And a lot of the leadership after the wildfire was let go. There are people trying to figure out how to advance this program. And we're looking at it in terms of what do we need to do about the data? How do we get the data to put into the model? How do we classify it? The engineers that are, when we're doing an inspection, the inspectors climbing up that pole, they're sharing their results, and then it goes to an engineer. It is failure mode and effect analysis. Can't we just get a drone and train the drone to do this? And that's when I first learned about the VIT model and vision-based models and VIT2, and there's a lot of other YOLO and other models that do a lot of um, classification and identification. But that's as far as we got. And it really took a lot of inspectors in a remote control room. And what ended up being the value is doing very basic classification and then having remote inspectors look at the drone imagery. And it wasn't until I was at Google for several years that large language models came out in the transformer architecture that I realized I got kind of that next wave where can we build agents, or how can we improve classification, or maybe take a failure mode effect analysis spreadsheet and then work with what people have classified in a remote room and create better models. So I've kind of had an evolution in how I've approached AI through my career. So one thing, being a chief AI officer, can you tell me a little bit about what you look for in a good AI project?
That's a great question because there's so many applications of AI. The demand for AI is high, and the way you can apply AI can occur in a lot of different ways. But we look for three things. We look for three dimensions. If there's a use case or an opportunity, one is, do we have a good problem or problem space to innovate around, right? Always want to start with the problem. AI can do a lot of different things. So we look at three dimensions. One is desirability. Actually, the hardest part of what I do isn't actually AI. It's helping people change to actually adopt and use the AI is really what's the biggest challenge. So desirability, meaning does someone, a leader, an individual, are they interested in actually using AI to solve the problem they have? So desirability is number one. Second is viability. What are the economics? What is the business case? What's the value we're going to create? And third is feasibility, which is centered a lot around the data, because if you don't have data, AI is not going to really do a good job. So having good data, the technology, can you actually do it? Are there tools out there that we can either purchase, or is it something that we can create? So desirability, viability, feasibility. Those are the three dimensions in that order of importance.
So, you know, since you have an office in this and you have a team working on it, there seems to be desirability in your organization. How are you thinking about training the workforce and what skills are you looking for to build the new, not just the new people to work on and develop AI platforms within Energy, but the new line worker of the future
Yeah.
or the inspector of the future?
Yeah. I would say number one is, yeah, we have people on the team that have very technical backgrounds. So a lot of people have like an educational background in data analytics, data science, software development, database development, data engineering. So from a tech job perspective, those are sort of the different paths or things that individuals should focus on if they want to develop those skills to be part of an AI function. To your second part of your question around the inspector of the future, et cetera, it's really embracing, adopting, and using the AI tools that are available, right? Even if you don't know how it works, how it's created, but it's important to be open to using the technology and using it and finding ways to innovate by using the technology, I think is really what I think is most important for the future workforce. What about you?
Well, at Google, it's similar but somewhat different. So when we look at this within Google Cloud, we have core platforms that we're focused on. So it's really deep computer science and people that want to work on the platforms and make the organization and representation of data highly accessible. I mean, our core vision is to, basically organize the world's data, not just organize it, but make it universally accessible. So we're looking for engineers and people that care about accessibility, understanding where people are at, a deep sense of curiosity, and the really strong computer science skills to abstract all the difficult work that's done today and having to classify and write software and make these platforms accessible. Um, we also have a second type within our cloud organization and our consulting workforce that we want people with deep industry knowledge, because the way we look at it is these models are, the way they're applied, they're very domain specific. And they only function well when they have a good grounding and understanding of the core data set. So we want people, again, curiosity is a key thing that comes across, an ability to want to get deep and work on a problem, but working within an industry and trying to understand the industry, take that curiosity, figure out how people are working, and building platforms that make it desirable. So if you look like where we're focusing on in power and energy, this space together, we notice that fire resilience is a key thing where people are asking for help. Image-based models is another area. And we've developed things like our FireSat. We have our new foundational vision models that we've put out there. We've built things that are basically multimodal in nature because people are wanting to see pictures with, text and be able to take documents that may have both of them, diagrams, and ingesting old basically a big problem we get is someone has an old inspection report from 20 years ago. They want to get it in so that they can build a machine learning problem, but they need to ingest all this data from these documents. Well, multimodal nature of large language models or having a foundational model that's multimodal will allow us to ingest that data. So those are the sort of traits we're looking for. But then we're also looking for people that are experts. And I know this might be surprising, like in sensing and understanding the data and being able to understand the environment. So you'll notice we have a new FireSat out there. We have worked with the Environmental Defense Fund on methane sat to understand methane leakage. We have people that are working heavily on LiDAR and work with Waymo, and a lot of the things we're pulling in a lot of that data and that expertise to kind of understand and better sense the environment too. So that's what we're looking for at Google.
Interesting.
And so it's kind of similar. So I'm going to ask you, like, I have this problem when we work with a client that people want to apply AI and they think AI can replace a person. And I need to have that discussion that it's really that inspector that's done thousands of inspections throughout their career that is going to be the best person to train the model. How do you tackle that internally within your company? And first off, do you feel that's the case? And second off, how do you convince the inspector that they need to help you with an AI problem if that is the case?
It does show up. I do agree with that. I would say that number one, I think the way we think about AI in terms of and human employees is more augmentation, right? So it's how do we make that inspector even better? How do we enable fill in the blank job augmented, elevated with the use of AI? Some of the more tenured employees have been with the company for a very, very long time. Sometimes I find that they're actually interested in imparting, it's kind of like their legacy, and to say, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and invest, take all of my knowledge that they're very proud of, and they should be, and actually be a willing participant in actually helping to implement AI. I can think of examples, I'm thinking of specific examples of individuals who have been with the company for a long time who may be a little bit enthusiastic around AI and how they might be able to embed all their experience and knowledge, right, in a place into AI to help support, the workforce that's coming up in their day-to-day jobs.
So I'm going to ask you a question. If you take that, what I just asked you, and you think 3 years out, the board comes to you and they say, what does your organization look like in 3 years? What do you see the mix is of people in an AI organization 3 years out from now?
In 3 years, I think it will be a larger organization, and primarily due to, well, a few things. One, demand for more AI. I think the demand will continue to go up. And the other is the support and the maintenance of the AI solutions that have been created. There is a technical dimension to supporting these things, the data, make sure the data is available, make sure the data has got the right level of quality, make sure it's being managed correctly. And then this is software, right? At the end of the day, whether we're buying an off-the-shelf tool or whether we're creating something custom, it requires care and feeding. Some of these models need to be retrained, they need to be refreshed, they need to be updated. So as AI proliferates more and more, there's going to need to be a function that's able to support, and then rules change, regulations change, policies change, new things come. So these AI solutions will require more and more care and feeding development. So I think in 3 years, the organization will be larger.
Sci-fi/AI related movie.
Ooh, 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 ooh. Thinking about 100 of them.
Well, my favorite sci-fi, it's not a movie, it's a series. It was the Battlestar Galactica reboot because this is right before, all of this generative AI. And it's kind of funny because the Cylons, were like we were like their gods, but then they also felt superior to us at the
Yeah.
same time
Yeah.
and wanted to prevent the destructive behavior of their gods. And I thought that was pretty interesting, interesting take
Yeah.
before this stuff took off.
I'm gonna have to go with Star Wars. I know that's tried and true, but I'm gonna go with Star Wars. And I would say with the AI slant to it, if you go back to the original, I call the original from the 70s, the robots they had some smartness to it, like C-3PO was pretty sharp. But as you look at the evolution of more and more Star Wars shows, AI is more prevalent. Like the droids are getting smarter and smarter and smarter. So that would be my pick.